What's up again, everybody? I'm Clayton. Welcome back to Ages of Film. It's October, which means it's Halloween season, baby. Horror month. And we're reviewing horror films all month long. I've already done a couple this month. Last week we did, what did we do? We did Scream and we did It. So I thought let's change it up a little bit, stay in horror, but do some sort of paranormal horror. So as you can tell by the title, today we're reviewing The Conjuring, released in 2013, directed by James Wan. But before we get there, don't forget to smash that like button while you're here. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. It helps the channel out greatly. If this is your first time, what's up? Thanks for being here and kicking it with me. Just as a reminder, everybody, this is just my opinion on this movie. No need to be upset or offended by anything that I have to say. I would love to know your opinion on The Conjuring in the comment section. What is your favorite Conjuring movie within the Conjuring universe? Obviously you have the Conjuring movies, you have the Annabelle movies, you have the Nun movies, and you have Curse of La Llorona. What is your favorite Conjuring film? Let me know in the comment section. That being said, let's dive right into my thoughts on The Conjuring. So directed by James Wan. It stars Patrick Wilson as Ed Warren and Vera Farmiga, I think is how you pronounce her name, as Lorraine Warren. It's kind of their story. It's based on a true story here of one of their cases, paranormal cases that they investigated. You also have Lily Taylor playing Carolyn Perrin. She's the kind of the main victim here, the lady that gets possessed and has to have an exorcism performed on her, and then her husband Roger Perrin, played by Ron Livingston. So what are my thoughts? Do I like this movie? Do I dislike this movie? So I'll just say I do like The Conjuring. I do. It's a solid film. It's a great film, honestly. So I'll start with the positives and then move into the negatives. There's not a lot of negatives with this movie. It's pretty solid, but there will be a few things to talk about there. But starting first in the positives, one of the things that I do really like about this movie is the fact that it's based on a true story, and we get to see the story of a case involving real demonic activity. I've said before on my channel, I don't hide from the fact that I'm a Christian. I believe in God, and I think that cases like this are good to be presented to the public as kind of a reminder that there actually are spiritual forces in the world. Whether you believe in them or not doesn't change the fact that they do exist. A child that believes in Santa Claus, he can believe in Santa Claus all he wants. Doesn't make Santa Claus real. No, right? Someone can deny something that is objectively true. Does their denial of that make it not true? No, right? So I think we all recognize that there is objective truth out there. Whether or not we believe it or accept it is our choice, but there is objective truth out there. And whether we believe in it or not, there are real spiritual forces out there, both good and bad. And stories like these, I think, are important to kind of be a reminder of that. So, I do like the fact that it's based on a true story. The Warrens, pretty popular couple, exorcism couple. Well, I guess they technically never performed an exorcism, although I guess Ed did kind of perform one in this story, in this movie. But in real life, I don't know, other than this one account, that they really ever performed an exorcism, because typically that is done by the church. And yeah, so but the story here is a positive for me. I also think the script is also really well written. It's a very tight script. There's no plot holes in the script, in the movie. Everything connects really well. There's no like logic issues or anything like that. Everything is pretty well knitted together. So the script is tight, it's well written, there's no plot holes, it makes sense, stuff that's going on. And I enjoyed that as well. There's no point where I like check out or like have to stop and question the logic behind anything. You know, it's a smooth ride all the way through, from a logic standpoint, a script standpoint. It's a very well written, tight script. So that's another positive for me. I thought the directing was also really well done by James Wan. I like the score in this movie. It's not necessarily a score that stands out, where it's not a score that's going to be staying in your head all throughout the day, but it's a score that works for the film that it's in, and it does its job. And that's kind of what I always preach when it comes to movie score, is that the score should do its job within the movie of like resonating a certain emotion out of you. It should generate the emotions out of you that the filmmaker is trying to get you to feel in order to connect on a deeper level with the film. And if the score does that, then it's a successful score. It's a good score, in my opinion. Some people would disagree with that. Some people might say a good score is a score that you want to listen to on repeat, a score that sticks with you, and that's fine as well. That's a perfectly reasonable opinion on that. But for me, score isn't an album. Score is movie score. It's there for the movie. It's not meant to be an album that you listen to while you're driving. It's meant to be a film score. So it's there to enhance the film experience. If it does that, then it's a good score. If it doesn't do that, it's not a good score. It's that simple. So for me personally, I do like the score here. I think it does do its job and does it well. It generates those feelings of anticipation, intensity at times, putting you kind of on edge in certain moments. I think Juan does a good job directing that and how he uses the score. It's pretty good. I really like the cinematography in this movie. I love the look, kind of this shaded gray hue over the lens. I think really gives it a really nice aesthetic throughout the film. A good style to the camera, to the lens, and the cinematography. The coloring here looks really good. So I do like the cinematography. I think James Wan does a really good job with that, kind of making the look of the film fit the theme of the film. These kind of shades of gray, morality, ethics, good, evil, and kind of taking the two sides there and kind of blending them together into this grayish presentation. I thought that's a really poetic way of using cinematography to enhance the visual experience of the film. So I do like the cinematography in The Conjuring as well. I also liked the house design, the production design here of the Perrin house. I thought it looks really good. It looks of the time. And I also think it looks, I like the interior design of it. It's kind of dark and eerie, kind of gives you that feeling where you would kind of feel a little on edge if you toured it, or if you had to stay there on over the weekend or whatever. You would just, the look of it, the design of it, interior design of it kind of gives you that eerie vibe about it. So it looks like a house where some paranormal stuff could be going on. So that again kind of enhanced the visual experience for me with The Conjuring. So that I thought that was the good directing. The directing in general by James Wan, I thought was really good. You could tell that he had a very clear vision of the story. He knew how he wanted to present the story here, and he did it well. And everything in the film visually was there for a reason, and it was there to heighten that experience for the viewer. So I really did like the directing in The Conjuring. And also the characters. I do like Ed and Lorraine as characters in this movie. Obviously, they're based on real people, Ed and Lorraine Warren, but in the film, they become characters in the film. So as film characters, I do like them. I love Patrick Wilson as an actor. I like him in everything I see him in. He just has this kind of charm about him where he becomes very likable. You know, it's very easy to get behind him, to pull for him, to like him as an actor and as a character. And he brings that charm into this film as Ed. He has a lot of on-screen energy about him where you gravitate towards him. And I'm a big fan of Patrick Wilson and everything that he's done, really. And I think he does a really good job in this one. And Lorraine, I do like Lorraine as a character as well. She's kind of the heartbeat to the film. You know, she kind of presents that compassionate, kind of tender motherliness to the film. And I think she's a really good character as well. Both of them are very likable, and because they have a daughter, you know, they have a girl of their own, that also gives you a reason to kind of pull for them. You want them to be able to make it out of the situation alive, because you know that they have a daughter, you know, and you also want their daughter to be safe. So when kids are involved, anytime kids are involved, it kind of raises the stakes a little bit. And I like that they incorporated their daughter into the story here, because it makes you connect more with them and with her, the daughter as well. So I do like Ed and Lorraine as characters. And I liked Carolyn and Roger as characters as well, the parents. I think that they seem like very kind of typical parents that have trying to raise a family. And I forget what time period this story takes place. I'd have to double check. I forget what like period piece this is supposed to be in, but they just seem like a normal, you know, wholesome family trying to raise their kids, moving into this new house. Roger, I think is played well and written well. Guy just trying to provide for his family, keep his family safe. You can tell he has a good relationship with his wife, with his kids. Carolyn also, you can tell loves her family, and I think they're well written characters on paper. They give you reasons to like them as characters, as persons, and the characters here I do think are pretty well handled for the most part. And the acting is good by everybody. Obviously, Patrick Wilson and Farmiga, they do a great job as the Warrens. Lily Taylor, she's always good. She brings a lot of emotion in through her performance as well. And even Ron Livingston as Roger Parrott, I thought also does a solid job. And the kids, even the girls, like for kid actors, I thought they were pretty solid. You know, there's a couple scenes where, you know, they wake up at night because, you know, the sheets get pulled off them or whatever, and the emotion that they have to bring in those scenes, I think they deliver. I think they bring those emotions in their performances. So yeah, the acting was really solid across the board, and I thought 2 thumbs up there. That was also positives for me. So getting to the negatives now with the film, there's not a lot of negatives here. There's just a few things that do kind of bring this film down some for me personally. One of the issues is I don't necessarily think that the main characters here, like the Warrens, I don't really feel like there was much depth to those characters. There wasn't really a lot of development with the characters, meaning there wasn't really any moment in the film, to my knowledge, and maybe there is and I missed it. I've seen this movie multiple times, but I've never caught really a moment with the Warrens of testing where they have to make a specific decision that will change their character or test their character or the rest of their story moving forward. They're kind of the same all the way through the film. They're kind of flat in that regard, and flat doesn't necessarily mean it's not necessarily a bad thing with characters, but at least one of your main characters, good writing, film writing tells you that one of your main characters should have an arc of some kind in the story where they start out one way and then through the experience or through the story, they change and they learn something about themselves or about life or whatever. And I just felt like both Ed and Lorraine, they didn't really have any of those character moments of testing, of development. They brought some layers in with the characters, in the sense of they kind of expounded on the characters, Lorraine specifically, kind of letting you know more about her backstory, but there wasn't really a moment of like real change with them or development with them. And I felt like it was just kind of flat on that regard. I get that they're trying to tell the story of this case, not necessarily the story of the Warrens and how they came to be who they are. I get that, but again, for me, it's all about character and story, and I like at least one of the main characters in any film to have some type of change or moment of testing with them as a character. And I think that, you know, just because you're in a horror film doesn't mean you can't have that. I mean, I thought one of the characters in It had that. Bill, in the 1990 version of It, when I reviewed that movie, that was a positive for me. Bill had that moment in that movie where he had to make a decision that was going to impact the rest of his journey. A moment of testing, a moment of development for him in that film. And I don't think there was any of that for the Warrens here. So that's kind of a negative for me. Something that I would have liked to have seen happen in the film, maybe through the journey that they go on, they change from it, or they learn something very important from it, but they really don't. They kind of, even at the end of the movie, you don't really get the feeling that they changed at all, or that they had any like moment of testing them as characters. And that's something that, again, for me, because it's all about character and story, something that I felt lacked in the film for me personally. Also, I feel like the movie was a bit too cinematic. And what I mean by that, and this is one reason I personally prefer The Conjuring Part 2 over the first one. I know a lot of people like the first one more than the second one. I personally like the second one more than the first one. One reason for that, is I felt like this first one was a bit too cinematic. The second one felt a lot more personal. And I think in a film like The Conjuring, the best way to generate that horror feeling is through a more personal sense of storytelling, where it's much more about putting you in the setting and making you feel the story and experience the story. It's like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a very experiential film. It's about the experience, immersing you into that story, making you feel everything with that film. This is a movie that I think works best in that same, through that same narrative of storytelling. I think it works best when you can put the viewer in the driver's seat and make it a very personal, experiential type of film. And I felt this one was a little more cinematic, where it was more about just the visuals and the character and the writing and all that stuff, and all that stuff is good, but it doesn't generate, for me personally, it doesn't generate that level of fear and tension that the second one does, because of how the second one is directed. It's directed in a much more personal type of way, experiential type of method to telling that story, where this one, I felt that it was more cinematically told rather than experientially told, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. But not to say that's not scary at all. There definitely are good moments of tension, moments that, the first time you see it, do get kind of a jump from you. So it's still very well directed, but there's a bit of a disconnect there for me from really experiencing what these characters experienced in this journey, in this story. So that would be another negative for me personally. And then the last negative I would say for me is I felt that the climax of the story ended kind of weak. When they're doing the exorcism on Carolyn and she finally snaps out of it and comes out, or the demons come out of her, whatever. It was really kind of done through the idea that if Carolyn can just find an anchor to hold on to and someone that she loves, that's what will pull her out and cause the demons to leave her. And she does. And then she thinks of, you have the scene where Lorraine kind of reminds her of that day where she was with her family on the beach, and she remembers her kids and how happy she was and the love that she felt for her family. And that love is what essentially brings her back and, performs the exorcism and causes the demons to flee or whatever. And I just felt like it was kind of weak. It was poorly done, because that's not how Satan is defeated. you're dealing in a spiritual world where you're acknowledging the devil and God and Christ. So if you're going to acknowledge that, then be accurate with it. And the accurate way of, having the demonic forces leave you is through a genuine faith in Christ. It's not just through, find something that you love and then that love will pull you out of it. No, because people that get possessed still are capable of loving other people. Carolyn herself in the movie loved her family, and yet she was still possessed. So it's not just love that pulls you out of it, because if it was, she would have never been possessed in the first place, because she had always loved her family. It has to be something greater than that. And with the Warrens kind of working for the church, or at least in cahoots with the church, you would think that would be the emphasis for them, is making it about faith in God, because it's faith in God that overthrows the devil. It's faith in God that defeats the devil. It's not just love for your family. Satan doesn't care about that. Satan can still possess you regardless of if you love your family or not. What conquers Satan is faith, true faith in Christ, and yet they don't go that route with it. They go the route of, she remembered about the love that she had for her family, and that love is what pulled her out of it. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. Real exorcisms are not done like that. If you listen to stories of priests that have performed real exorcisms, that's not ever how exorcisms are done or achieved. If you don't have to take my word for it either. You can just go watch interviews with priests, with exorcists, and they will tell you that the exorcisms that have been successful are the ones where the person involved has a true moment of coming to faith, having faith in God, and it's the love for God that pulls them out of it. It's faith in Christ and repentance that pulls them out of it. It's not just a love that they had for someone or their family. So to me, that is probably the biggest issue I have with The Conjuring, is they're dealing and acknowledging the spiritual realm, God, the devil, and all this stuff, and yet they're denying the fundamental truth about how the devil's defeated. It's not just through love, it's through a faith in a higher power over Satan, which is God. So that would be my kind of my biggest issue there with The Conjuring. But my overall rating here, I would still give this movie 4 stars. I still think it's a great film. It's very well written. It's very well put together. The characters are good. The acting is really good. The direction by James Wan is really good. So you have all those things coming together and are successful on a high spectrum. So still a 4-star film. It's still a great movie. It's still a movie that I can say that I do love. It is and it is a good movie to throw on in October. So if you haven't seen The Conjuring, I kind of spoiled it for you a little bit. I don't think I spoiled it too much, but check it out. Let me know your thoughts on The Conjuring. Do you agree with my opinion? Do you disagree? Let me know anything and everything in the comment section. And until next time, kick it and rock on.